Work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. Madam Clerk?
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this work session, regular meeting of the Franklin Township Council was made by posting on the bulletin boards in the municipal building, posted on the township website, and electronically transmitted to the officially designated newspaper indicating that this work session, regular meeting will take place via WebEx at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, November 9th.
Thank you. If we could have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice and liberty for all. The invocation by Councilman Embarrasson, who I don't see with us. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, he is.
Thank you, Mayor. May those assembled here today enjoy the many offerings of our township. May we abide by the rules we have established, those of trust, fellowship, and ethics. And may we place service above self in our daily endeavors. And may we always test ourselves and our efforts to be sure they are the truth, good for all concerned, of benefit to mankind, and provide peace and understanding. Amen.
Amen. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Embarrasson?
Here.
Councilman Chase?
Here.
Councilwoman Francois?
Here.
Mayor Kramer?
Here.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pewitt?
Here.
Councilwoman Udin?
Is in the process of joining.
Deputy Mayor Vassanella?
Here.
And Councilman Wright? And Councilman Wright? Okay.
Thank you. 1 second. I just got a text from Sheepa, from Councilwoman Udine. The WebEx links does not seem to work for me. I mentioned it to Bob McQueen multiple times and logged into the public link. I don't see her.
I'm waiting for her to join as the public and I'll promote her.
I don't see her in the public, but. Okay.
Out there.
Perhaps you can call her. Okay. Commendations and proclamations. Councilman Embarrasson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This proclamation is to recognize Diwali. It's one of the more important ceremonies that they're celebrated not only in India, all over the world, where Indians and Indian people of Indian descent celebrate. It's a the proclamation goes like this: whereas Diwali is a festival of lights during which celebrants light small oil lamps, place them around the home, and pray for health, knowledge, and peace. And whereas celebrants of Diwali believe that rows of lamps symbolize the light within the individual that rids the soul of the darkness of ignorance. And whereas Diwali falls on the last day of the last month in the lunar calendar and is celebrated as a day of thanksgiving and the beginning of the new year for many Hindus. And now, therefore, I, Councilman Raman Barson, on behalf of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, and State of New Jersey, do hereby recognize November 4th, 2021 as Diwali 2021 in the Township of Franklin, and call upon its residents to observe and celebrate Diwali with various activities and programs to learn about its religious and historical significance. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We're on to commendations and proclamation. I'm sorry, we've done with that. We're on to public discussion. So I have a motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We are open to the public. 3 minutes apiece, no yielding of time. Please state your name and address. May only come up once. And all I see on is the reporters and Kathy Moody. Wishing to speak. Go ahead, Mr. McQueen.
Anybody from the public wishing to speak, please use the chat function, raise hand feature, or *3 from your telephone. Again, any member of the public wishing to speak, please use the chat function, raise hand feature, or *3 from your telephone.
Mr. Guy.
Again, any member from the public wishing to speak, please use the chat function, raise hand feature, or *3 from your telephone. We are open for public comment. Anybody from the public wishing to speak, please use chat function, raise hand feature, or *3 from your telephone.
I see no one coming forward.
Mr. Mayor, I do not see anybody indicating they would like to speak at this time.
Mayor, seeing no one from the public that wishes to speak, I make a motion that we close the public session.
Second.
Moved in, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. I'm still looking. No one has indicated they wish to speak. Public session is closed. Okay. Council comments and reports. Councilman Onijaka.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman, by the way, we're looking at you sideways.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, let me have it this way.
For a moment, you look like Spider-Man.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I'm saddened to report that a fatal accident happened in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is one of the West African communities we have in Franklin Township. They are fully integrated into our community. A lot of lives were lost in this fatal accident. And at the same time, all our condolences go to the affected families. And there will be a vigil on Sunday, November 21st, time 5 p.m. Please, we're calling people to come and stay with them. It's a terrible loss we are sharing in the African community. At the same time, I say, may their souls rest in perfect peace. Thank you, Mayor. This is what I'm putting.
Thank you. Sorry if you hear my dog barking. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I only have one thing to report. On Halloween, we had trunk or treat over at Neiman Williams Park. It was very nicely attended. The kids had a lot of fun. We had costume contests. We had dance contests. We ran out of candy, which we do, it seemed like every year, but it was a nice event and the weather was nice. And looking forward to next year having trunk or treat over at the youth center. That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Crystal Pruitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will keep it relatively brief. Obviously, following Councilman Onijaka's comments, my condolences to those impacted in our Sierra Leonean community. I was unable to, pivoting, obviously, I was unable to attend Trunk or Treat once they moved the day, but I did lurk on social media, and it looked like it was so much fun. I was really upset that I was unable to make it. So I am really excited about next year, especially with it being potentially in our new beautiful youth center. But I don't know how many trunks you're going to fit in there. So I think it just might be regular trick or treat. And then obviously, lastly, happy Diwali to our community members that celebrate. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I clarify one point? The trunks will be out in the parking lot.
I'm just saying. You said the trunks would be in the community center.
We'll have the festivities, the contests and stuff like that over at the youth center, but the trunks will be outside. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, now the press has something to write about. Councilman Ambarasan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a busy couple of weeks with a number of meetings and events. On the 27th October, we had the HRC meeting where we discussed celebrating Diwali as a standing item in the agenda going forward, being that it's a huge festival for Indians and descendants of India. So following up on that, we had gotten the gazebo lighting done thanks to our PW department as well as Parks and Recreation. Due to their efforts, we put permanent lighting inside the gazebo, and we had a number of cultural activities that planned council with the help of Councilwoman Udine, and we hosted that, and it was a joyous occasion celebrating the inaugural lighting of the gazebo as well as Diwali being the Festival of Lights, appropriately named. So that was a great event, and we hope to do that every year. I thank Interfaith Council for organizing the space for us. On the 29th, Councilman Udine has been very active with interacting with the residents, and she had organized a meeting with the Canal Walk residents. I'm sure she'll talk more about that. A few things came up to our attention. We are following up, getting the answers on that. And the colleague Kimberly Francois mentioned about trunk or treat. I was there as well. It was packed. There was not even any room to get in. Being a councilman, they let me get in to park on the grass for a few minutes while I was looking at the crowd. A lot of kids, a lot of parents, a lot of fun. That was all about, and the community getting together and celebrating that. And I certainly would look forward to doing that in the youth center. But probably we can't afford that much crowd on the youth center, especially the cars. I think Crystal is right. And then following that, I did go to another community on Route 27, Countryside Homes, where we got invited to go and celebrate a little trick or treat with the kids there. Councilman Charles Wanenjeka and Mayor Kramer were there with me. So primarily Indians there, but nevertheless, it was a great event. A lot of fun we had. And just before that, I was invited to go to see a cricket match at Consolata. What's special about this is it's a match that the girls played. So our girls, the Franklin team girls, are doing very well in the league. And apparently I was told one of the girls is even going to represent or is going to try out for the U.S. national girls cricket team. So which is fabulous. So so that was a great thing to hear, and they did bring up a few things to me, and I will follow up with our team offline. And then November 2nd, obviously, was very good for our incumbent candidates and the replacement for the one and only Councilman Chase. I think they all made a good showing. And one thing we did this year was Mayor and I kind of worked the polls, the polling results of our municipal elections. We were in the council chambers. We displayed live results as they were coming in on the big screen TV. With limited people that were allowed to be in the chamber, but nevertheless, I think we did pretty well. I think we were able to give the results on the running totals throughout the night until the election was called. So that was a new experience for me. And then apart from that, I attended a couple of other meetings, Sewerage Authority board meeting on the 3rd and the fire prevention meeting on the 4th. That's all I've got, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Udine.
Hello, good evening. I feel like I missed Halloween while everyone else celebrated and had candies. So next year, I hope that I can join in on the fun event. There was a lot happening in Second Ward. To start off with, we wrapped around, we completed our what we call shot-a-thon. So residents, our adult communities have been, we got about 300 people vaccinated. We wrapped it up by Somerset Run, being the last location that was vaccinated. And I know there's gonna be multiple other locations, and as mentioned by our mayor, but we got a good number of people that were vaccinated, which was very nice to see the turnout between the adult communities. The feedback was it was such a smooth process for them because they just got to their clubhouse versus to going to these clinics, and they met familiar faces. So they had a little time to catch up with their friends as they waited their 15-minute. Some of them waited like 30 minutes. But it was nice to see residents come out and take part of an awesome program, and also just get vaccinated for their booster. Apart from the vaccination, we had, I had a Zoom meeting with the Second Ward adult community hosted by one of their resident, Vikram. And in that meeting was just more of a meeting, the council person talking about what their feedback was, just to kind of understand where their mindset is. I was also educating them on the local government, giving them a hierarchy of where we sit and just how we, work in the office, and then who's under us in terms of hierarchy, as well as, the departments, various departments. It was more of an educational awareness for them, and they really appreciate that education, because a lot of the folks were just wondering how does the council fit and what the roles and responsibilities of us were. So that meeting was pretty nice, and thank you, Councilman Ram, for joining that. I think we got great feedback and some takeaways that we're working on from the residents of that meeting. All right, so VD and J is a temple that's corner of Demont and Amwell, and they've been very nice on hosting some meet and greets with the residents, and they invited us last week to meet with just the council members and the local government. So I attended, and a couple of the council members attended that. I know, Charles, you attended that. I'm not sure if this was your first time, but it was very nice to see the culture, to see the people, and just, understanding their events that are coming up. As well as last Saturday, they had a meeting partnership with Interfaith, and HRC, VD and J Temple also did Diwali. And it was a great turnout. A lot of residents showed up, and a lot of us showed up, which was nice. And I think it's, again, just understanding someone else's culture and awareness. I'm sorry, my alarm is just going off. My son keeps opening the door. So please discard that alarm. But it was nice to just see, residents in their culture, the kids taking initiatives, being part of their rituals, and then just something different than what we normally see. So I think, we want to promote that and be part of other residents' just culture and awareness. So that was nice. I also want to thank Councilwoman Kimberly for pulling through at last minute and giving those kids for Franklin Fit program an indoor gym, because they were out there the last 2 weeks, and it was terrible seeing them, shiver in the cold in the evening. So I think they very much appreciated it. They're now in Hamilton School, and what I hear, the kids are having a lot more fun. So, thank you for working on that and getting that pushed through. And they are excited to go to the youth center. So they're holding you accountable for that now. We had a lot of meetings. Land use meeting, we had, I'll let Councilman Chase provide updates for that. Public Works, we just met and we spoke about a couple of things. There's a street, Marcy Street, and that neighborhood is having their sewage, the sewage authority is doing work on replacing some pipes in that street. And as they're working on that, there's some work that's happening where they're digging in and leaving some work in terms of the trench issues, I guess, that was being rolled out. And thankfully, our DPW picked it up and is working with a contractor now to fix that issue, as well as the sewage authority, to make sure that the project that's done by the contractors is well inspected and that we don't have these ongoing issues. Thankfully, it was patched up early and it's fixed. And I think that's, oh, one more thing, like in lights on Middlebush Park, I received a lot of calls from soccer parents about lights not working in Middlebush Park. So thank you, Bob and the team, for getting the lights back on. I know you made a lot of those soccer little ones feel very proud that they're back in the fields and getting onto their recreational. So thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to, well, first I should report on the Land Use Committee meeting on October 27th. The two main things that were discussed were the ordinance on electric vehicle charging stations, which is really mandated by the state. The state passed a law and then said that Township should install it in their ordinance. So we use the state's model ordinance. We will have some more things on electric vehicle charging stations on municipal property. The part about establishing them will go in that part of the ordinance, but later in other portions we will put in something about the fees for the use of municipally owned charging stations and about the parking space being reserved for vehicles that are actively charging, not to be just used as a parking space. We also discussed the ordinance continuing the establishment of the Kingston Village Advisory Committee, which was established some 20 years ago as part of a state center designation for Kingston, which for people who are not familiar with it is part in Franklin and part in South Brunswick. The state has discontinued the center. To continue it as a center would have required our doing a whole lot of other bureaucratic paperwork. So we are just producing an ordinance which will be introduced tonight to continue the joint advisory committee that advises both our council and South Brunswick Council. And then we discussed the request of a developer who wants to build houses on Madison Avenue and Ruth Street. Ruth Street is currently a paper street off Elizabeth Avenue, north of 287. He wants to put the stormwater management facilities in the township right of way to handle the runoff from the proposed 6-lot subdivision. And the township and its engineering consultant have a lot of concerns about this. In particular, it would wind up that the township would staff would have to maintain this, which is not what normally happens with stormwater management facilities in a development. So essentially, we told the developer, no dice. And just to add to what Councilwoman Udine said about the Public Works meeting that we just had, one of the points there is that it's not so much Marcy Street, but in connection with this, we would like to have contractors install meter pits for meters, not where the house is close to the street and the meter can be in the house, but if you have, say, a 200-foot driveway where the pipe running back to the house could leak anywhere there, we would rather have the meter at the curb, but we don't currently have an ordinance. While this has been the practice recently, we don't currently have an ordinance to require this, so we ought to develop an ordinance mandating this in the future. Another ordinance that we want to develop concerns right-of-way maintenance when there are either weeds or bushes growing out from privately owned properties over the edge of the curb and encroaching into the street, or at least encroaching into the gutter and posing a hazard of blocking drains. But while on occasion this has been brought to the notice of property owners through the health department, it would be better to have a separate ordinance that could be enforced by Public Works or whoever the manager designates. The problem is mainly with absentee owners of property, undeveloped property, who don't do any maintenance. People who have lawns generally mow them up to the curb. And the Somerset County Master Gardeners would like to install a pollinator garden around the gazebo, which we think is generally a good idea, although if there's any more lighting to be installed, that ought to be designed before they design the pollinator garden. But the Master Gardeners are an ongoing organization, unlike veterans organizations that were supposed to maintain the Veterans Memorial, and unfortunately they have grown old and passed away. And our road survey to be done by Civil Solutions to tell us where we ought to repave next year. They've just had the kickoff meeting, and this will also tell us things like what signs are there, and the police department will tell us what signs are missing. We'll get some idea of, do we need to install more traffic control signs. And finally, about roads to be repaved, most of the ones to be done this year have been done. Castleton, Bloomfield, and Abbott are to be started this Thursday. So I think that's a fair amount of report, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Wright.
Just a couple of things. I want to thank Councilman Chase for giving land use. If we don't have another land use meeting, then this was it for Councilman Chase. And I want to thank him for doing this on the land use, because Councilman Chase has done a lot. He educates you, and that's what you want a councilman to do in a committee, educate you on some of the things that come up. And Dr. Chase has done just that. Some of my residents in the fourth ward have asked about the side of the road where the water comes out the fire hydrant. They don't know why this is being done. Well, see, I want to arrest them. I want to get them a rest and say it's for water main replacement. One particular street, Ellen, 4 or 5 calls a day. Hey, Carl, what are they doing? They tore up the street. They're going to redo the street. And rest assured, next year, when the paving starts, you're at the top of the list. Okay? So next year, rest assured, you're there. Talk to the township manager, and that's what we're going to do. Now, something near and dear to my heart. heard me talk about it before. Sisters to Sisters Network. Breast Cancer Awareness Month, they came out in style. Everything you want to know about breast cancer, they did it. But more importantly, they struck me in that not a lot of men were there. I didn't see a lot of men. And it's not only women that get breast cancer, it's men too. We are right along with our wives, our mothers, our sisters when they go through this process. And it seems to me that the men should be at the front of the line, not the end of the line, when it comes to taking care of business as far as donations are concerned. Now, that's just my thought about that issue, but take it for what it's worth. The next thing I want to bring up, and I lost my page, I apologize for that. Thank you for helping us during this incredible community service project, which helped us raise over $30,000 to continue to serve the women who are and who will battle breast cancer. The funds raised from October's events supports our nonprofit breast cancer assistance program, which provides emergency breast cancer related services for qualified women during chemo treatment. Now, some of the things that happened, and we need to look at them, is the first thing up, our police car. There's one police car, and Bob, you can straighten me out on this. It's white and has a beautiful ribbon wrapped around it. Now, if you saw that car, that is our way of promoting Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Now, I think we were kind of late breaking that car out for some technical reason with the shop that would normally do the painting or what have you. But
the company that does the wrapping was flooded by Hurricane Ida.
There you go. Now, just so you know or get a feeling of what they do, they had a donation for Magyar Bank. Jay Fitzgerald was the president, or is the president, and Jay Ressner is the vice president, is the president of the Charitable Foundation. And the young lady who shows up everywhere is Dorothy Reed. The ladies in pink were at First Baptist Church of Lakeland Gardens with Reverend Quick to celebrate Pink Month, as it were. They did a fundraiser at F45 Training in South Edison with the owner, Miss Lowry, and of course, Miss Dorothy Reed again. So they do a lot for breast cancer, and I implore you that we need to help the women, the mother of our species, as it were, they say, and support breast cancer wherever it is. But also, in addition to that, the food bank. Thanksgiving is coming up. Some of you will have great meals. Some of us won't. And I want us to give so that not just Thanksgiving, but throughout the year, we help those that are less fortunate than ourselves. That's another pet project of mine, the food bank. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes, Mayor, hopefully you can hear me. I've been trying to connect to video, but have had no luck. I'll try to connect after this portion once again. I assume you hear me okay?
Well, actually, you're a little soft.
Okay. Anyway, most of the meetings were covered pretty well. Thank you, Councilman Chase, and my colleagues who reported on PW. On the Public Works meeting, besides the road repaving that's getting wrapped up, there's some paving in some of our parks, small little projects that will be wrapped up as well starting this Thursday. Went to a Hamilton board meeting a week ago Monday. Basically touched on the success of trunk or treat, and also talked about the many opportunities, whether relevant to the, I'm going to just call it the COVID money, infrastructure money coming from Washington, money from IDA, other economic development opportunities, some county grant money. There's a lot going on out there, and our executive director and members on the board are all keeping their eyes out for opportunities, and they'll be brought back and flushed out by the board. Hopefully there'll be opportunity for the district to take advantage of some of this grant and other money being made available in the upcoming future here. And I just wanted to also say my heart goes out, my heart and prayers to both Sierra Leone, both in that country, and the many who live in the U.S. and especially in the Franklin area because of the unfortunate catastrophe that happened. I believe the mayor will have some more to say about that. And that's pretty much it. We have a lot happening, a lot of ordinances, some that Mr. Chase touched on, and others having to do with land use and property maintenance. So we look forward to a very busy and active new year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My heart as well goes out to citizens of Freetown, Sierra Leone, the tragedy that struck there. Councilman Onijaka has already announced when the vigil will be. It's a very sad occasion, just heartbreaking. On a happier note, again, happy to Wally, to all those who celebrate it, and to those who don't, you should. Okay, Mr. Manager, if you could share the screen,
Which one would you like up first?
the graph.
Okay.
So I've posted on my Facebook page, I have written a letter to the editor, and I might as well do it here as well. I'm going to talk about the COVID booster shots, COVID vaccine booster shots. And this graph, I'm going to speak in shorthand, so some of my words won't be precise, but it more or less will give you the correct view of what's going on. So this is a graph that shows in the orange line what's going on with Moderna vaccines, the gray line Pfizer vaccines, and the blue line the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. You can think of the y-axis, the vertical axis, as effectiveness, with 1 being 100%, 0.8 being 80%. And then the x-axis, the horizontal axis, is months since you've had the full vaccination. So from March to April, of course, is 1 month, and it goes out in this graph 5 months from your initial vaccine. What you can see is for all 3 vaccines, over time, you are less and less protected. So they all start roughly at 90%, and by 6 months later or 5 months later, the Moderna is holding up the best, but it's still somewhere under 80%. Pfizer is somewhere around 60%, and the J&J is very much smaller than it originally was. This is actually to be expected of a COVID vaccine. COVID diseases don't hold immunity for that long from the natural infection. And I'm extrapolating now, but the Johnson & Johnson vaccine most greatly simulates the natural immunity you would get from getting the virus. You cannot get the virus from getting Johnson & Johnson vaccine, but the way your immune system works with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a little closer to what the natural infection would be. So if you had COVID back in March, in August, you would see that you have very little protection. And then again, this is what's known to happen with coronavirus infections. So the bottom line here is, I used to think of the booster shot as a plus. I'm vaccinated, I'm fully vaccinated, and if I get the booster, then I'll be even more vaccinated. No, I was at one point fully vaccinated, and then over the months I became less than fully vaccinated. And then I got the booster again, and it's this, in another few days, I'll again be fully vaccinated. And then time will go on and I may need another booster shot. So please don't think because you got your 2 Modernas or 2 Pfizers or your Johnson & Johnson that you are fully vaccinated. If you just got them, fine. But if you got them months ago, you're not. You could move to the next graphic. So who can receive what? So both the Pfizer and the Moderna, anyone over 65, right now, anyone over 18 who is in a risk situation. So like you live in a long care facility, or you work in a long care facility, or you have an underlying condition, or you live or work in a high exposure contact with a lot of people. Dr. Nahas, who you may have seen with me on my town hall meetings, feel that since the COVID rate for New Jersey is high, that all of us are living in a high risk environment. So that's kind of up to you. Today, Pfizer applied for anyone over 18 to get a booster shot, and hopefully that will be happening soon. For Johnson & Johnson, anyone over 18 who received their initial dose more than 2 months ago, you are eligible for a booster shot. The county is doing these, and our next opportunity that the town is involved in will be at the Hamilton Street Middle School on Sunday, the 21st. We'll also be doing testing that day. That's the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So if you want to get tested to have some kind of idea and protection that when you get together with your family that there's not a guarantee, but some indication that you're COVID free, that's a good time to get it. Hamilton Street Middle School from 11 to 3 on November 21st. The last issue, you can take that down. Thank you, Mr. Manager. The last issue is I'm going to call it a mayor's working group. I'm going to set up a mayor's working group to discuss the issues of protests or rallies in parks and political signs. For about a month now, the township attorney and I have been discussing the ordinance for what is allowed in parks. And it says no rallies or speeches. And both of us consider that to be in conflict with the First Amendment. It was the attorney tells me this ordinance was written in 1970 or the 70s. I wasn't aware of what exactly that it said, but this ordinance clearly needs to be reworked. And if you step back in this nation, we have a lot of problems, particularly between parties. The parties don't work together on things. It's a battle. You know, it used to be around election time, sure, you would work to have your side win, but now it seems that they're working against each other. I can't stop that from happening in Washington. And maybe I can't stop it here in Franklin, but I would like to work on that. So I'm forming a mayor's working group that will consist of myself, the Democratic chair, Ron Jordan, and the Republican chair, Bob LaCourte, and then one additional member of their choosing. And the five of us will get together and discuss these two ordinances, the sign ordinance and the parks ordinance. And I will be informed by that. And other council members, this is an unofficial group. Other council members can certainly take their input and use it to help them decide, or they don't have to, but it will at least advise me. And it will open a dialogue and a communication between the parties so that when there's a glitch or a bump in a road in the future, there'll be a relationship between the parties and there'll be more trust. I think we need to get back to trusting each other. We're all Americans. We're all working for the same thing, basically. And this is my step towards that. That concludes my remarks. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two events upcoming that I wanted to report on. The first is this Thursday, November 11th. It is Veterans Day, and in honor of our military, the township will be having a Veterans Day memorial service from 10:30 to 11:30 at the municipal complex at our Veterans Monument in front of the municipal complex. Anyone who is interested in attending, please do. And the second event is the following day, Friday, November 12th. The township is sponsoring a blood drive, which will be held in the municipal building in the council chambers from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. All of the information is available on the website. Appointments are recommended. However, walk-ins are welcome. The link to make an appointment is there if you wish to donate blood. Reminder that all people entering the municipal complex are required to wear masks at all times, regardless of their vaccination status, and that would include the blood drive to be held on November 12th. And that's all I have right now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The next item is council discussion item, and there are no council discussion items. Item number 10, approval of the minutes. The minutes of the Township Council work session regular meeting of October 12th, 2021 are hereby presented to the Township Council for approval. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Corrections? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Embarrasson,
Yes.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Pewitt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Udine,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Okay, and Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Okay. Approval of the warrants. Warrants are the bills we pay. Warrants in the amount of $5,589,612.24 on November 9th, 2021 are presented to Township Council for payment. Do we have a motion on the warrants?
So moved.
Do we have a
Second. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on the warrants? Anyone want to pull a particular item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Embarrasson,
Yes.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Pewitt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Udine,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
The next item is a public hearing and adoption of ordinances on second reading. The second reading is the one where we actually vote on either passing or not passing an ordinance. We had no first ordinances pending first readings pending. So we're on to item number 13, ordinances on introduction and first reading. This is where we basically announce to the public that we are considering an ordinance. And then it will go on in the appropriate time, often 2 weeks later, to a second reading. So ordinance 4352-21, an ordinance authorizing and encouraging electrical vehicle supply service equipment, EVSE, and make-ready parking spaces. The foregoing ordinance presents the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, and publication in accordance with law and public hearing, and final adoption at a virtual meeting of the Township Council to be held via WebEx on Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. Do we have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So as Councilman Chase described, this is a way of making electrical vehicles a little bit more easy to use by having more charging stations around. In many ways, this document is a zoning ordinance that says they can be anywhere, and if you're going to build a big parking lot, you have to have so many spots that are going to be charging stations. He described the rest fairly thoroughly. Any other discussion on this?
I had one question for the manager or Mr. Chase.
Go ahead, Ms. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I completely support what we're trying to do here. I read through it. I read the whole ordinance. Didn't get a chance to read it a second time. There's a lot to it. My only concern is I may not be interpreting it correctly, but I thought I read that by putting in these spots, which can likely remain empty or be used by someone coming to charge, of course, their vehicle, but that the builder, say a builder normally would be required by our ordinance and planning board recommendations, et cetera, and zoning to, say, hypothetically put 100 spots. The idea that they'll be receiving reductions in that by adding these others, I don't know if that's required by law or there's a reason for it, or perhaps I misinterpreted, but my concern is allowing there to be less parking than what would normally be required by having some of these electrical stations put in.
Deputy Mayor, everything that's being put forward in this ordinance was already adopted as state law, and this is just a formality that the state has directed municipalities to adopt it into their zoning ordinance.
So
It's
we're
state law.
So we have to allow them reductions in normally required parking.
That is the state. That is, we took the model ordinance that was a product of the state law and put it in front of you here tonight.
Okay, well, if we have no power, I guess Mr. Raynon would know that our hands are tied, so to speak.
Correct.
Then it's a moot point. Okay, I wish they had done it in a way that could have pushed out as much of this electric vehicle support infrastructure needed, but not reduce what may end up being, in certain circumstances, now a shortage of parking. But it is what it is. It's the state law. Thank you.
The number of parking spaces affected is still a rather small fraction of the total parking spaces required. And
well, 10%
is that
Dr. Chase.
10%.
10%.
If I may complete what I had to say, that we are technically reducing the number of parking spaces by devoting some of them to charging stations. So, although the cars parked there would normally be vehicles of workers at the facility that's being developed, so that it really wouldn't diminish the parking need, the number of spaces available, and the exact number of parking spaces supplied is usually more than required by the ordinance. Sometimes the developer asks for a variance to supply less, usually, and they have to have good reasons for this. There are types of use which don't require nearly as many parking spaces. For instance, data centers that are mostly computers with very few people working there, or storage facilities where people typically park there only for a rather short period of time, so that you don't need as many overall spaces. And the make-ready spaces are spaces that are to be, the wires are to be put in so that it is easy to install further charging stations as time goes on, and hopefully we have more electric vehicles needing them.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Barson,
Yes.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Puitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Uden,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Ordinance 4353-21, an ordinance to amend the municipal code of chapter 13, boards, commissions, and committees, article, what's that, 14, joint advisory committee, village, and its entirety, and rename Article 14 to Kingston Village Advisory Committee. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, and publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption at a virtual meeting of the Township Council to be held via WebEx on Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. Do we have a motion to introduce?
So
So
moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So as Mr. Chase described, the advisory committee will no longer be under, I guess, a state charter. It'll be under a local charter. Being under the state charter had no real advantage and a lot of work associated with it. Any other comments? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Barson,
Yes.
Councilman Chase,
yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Puitt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Uden,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Before we get to the consent agenda, I had promised the public that we would discuss the in-person meetings again. I promised that back in October. It is my opinion that we are no better than we were back when we decided to continue with virtual meetings. You saw what the information I had about booster shots, so people are less, in some ways, less vaccinated than they used to be. Our 7-day average back then was roughly 5. It's now roughly 6, a little over 6. Not a huge increase, but again, no better. In all practicality, so I'm not recommending to council that we go back to in person right now. And in all practicality, if let's say there were a major shift at the next meeting, we could vote that the last meeting of the year would be an in-person meeting. I just don't think it's practical to do that. So I think what this is, we are now set to remain virtual for the remainder of the year. And the township attorney advised us that we will have no choice as of January 1st, unless he's heard it's something different.
Nothing different, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So unless a council member wants to make a motion to go back to in-person meetings, or if you just have a comment, the floor is open.
I just have a clarifying question, Mayor.
Yes.
So based on that comment, in Lou agreeing, January 1st, everyone goes back in person. I guess we lose the virtual option. Is that kind of?
That's where it stands now, though. Once again, I explained how it is that the Division of Local Government Services got to that conclusion, and I don't know whether that conclusion is going to change. But it's a question we ask all the time. So it's very possible between now and the end of the year that there may be a different judgment. My opinion is that since electronic meetings are allowed, are always allowed under the Open Public Meetings Act, that the sense of it would be for the state to just allow that as a permanent option. Whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know.
And by the way, there was someone out there saying that we were the only town that's still meeting virtually. At the time they said it, at least 8 other towns in Somerset County were still meeting virtually. Of the 15 towns I was able to poll, 9, including Franklin, were meeting virtually, and 6 were meeting in person. As of that polling, one of them said by November, they'll be going back to in person. So now there's Franklin plus 7 other towns, at least, meeting virtually. I missed the public meeting. I wish we were back, and hopefully people will get vaccinated and things will go in the right direction, and we will be back soon. So we're now back to the published agenda, the consent agenda. Items A through M as listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anyone like to pull an item, discuss an item? Okay, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Embarrasson,
Yes.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Unijaka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Pewitt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Uden,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
We're on to resolutions to be voted on separately. There are none. Item 16, old business, boards, committees, commissions. Anyone have a nomination? There is no executive session tonight. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Be well, Franklin.